it's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil, yeah, like lunch, maybe dinner, breakfast in certain time zones. How are you? It's Tuesday the 15th. Oh my God, these are the Ides, right? The Ides of March. It's going to be a good day. It should be a better day now that I know it's the Ides of March. I mean, nothing to beware of. You're here. You're here. This is our show 265. This is actually a day before the big anniversary day in Atlanta. So I guess this is Atlanta Eve. So we should have been beware of March 16th, 2021. I'm going to talk more about the Atlanta. They call them the Atlanta spa murders, but no spas were killed. People were killed. People were killed on March 16th, 2021. We'll talk about that as we prepare for the buildup to a lot of remembering, a lot of, I guess, meditating, group meditations. They're going to be people from around the country remembering tomorrow, March 16th, in New York, especially the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. They'll be convening at Kim Law Square in Chinatown in Manhattan, just for a remembrance, people standing together as community. I think that's sort of the ideal thing. It's like wherever you are, if you're on the West Coast, in the South, in the Midwest, just wherever you are, you should just remember the day, March 16th, 2021. In New York, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, they're going to be remembering March 16th, 2021 in Kim Law Square in Chinatown, just to stand together as community, to bring signs so that people know, stop Asian hate now, so people remember. Maybe bring some candles, maybe bring something, incense, something, just to stand together to remember Atlanta and to remember not just 1 year since Atlanta, but let's go back 2 years to March 19th, the first time the twice impeached president was asked at a White House press conference about his use of the phrase China virus and Kung flu. That was March 19th, 2020, just as the pandemic was coming into our reality, as we were beginning to notice, hey, we got some issues here. That was March 19th, 2020. 1 year later, after his use of the phrase Kung flu and China virus, we had about 7,000 instances of hate. And from March 16th, 2021 to this day, past December 31st, 2021 into 2022, at December 31st, 2021, there were 10,000, almost 11,000 instances of hate toward Asian Americans. And now in the first 3 months, they haven't completed any counts, but I'm sure it's well over 11,000. So this is a time to stand together as community. And the reason why we talk about this, because this was us. It wasn't a crime against just 6 Asian American women. Well, yeah, in the news, 6 of the 8 killed in those Atlanta spas or Asian American, but it wasn't a crime against those individuals so much as it was a crime against all of us as an Asian American community. So, stand against anti-Asian hate, racism in all its forms. Join ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. Wednesday, March 16th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's now officially EDT, right? It's not Eastern Standard. It's Eastern Daylight Time. EDT, it sounds like some kind of sexual thing. Kimlaw Square, New York City. Now, that was a bad sexual pun. Forgive me. But EDT. I haven't begun to argue about, do you like daylight savings time? Yeah. I don't know. My phone does it automatically, so I don't have to have the anxiety. My anxiety is tomorrow, anniversary. So gather around if you're in New York, Kimlaw Square in New York City. If you are, it's something you can do wherever you are. I'm in California. I'll be thinking about it. Today, on today's show, we're going to talk more about what's going on with that case and talk about what happened in Cherokee County last July. I have some thoughts about, it wasn't considered a hate crime in Cherokee County, and then the convicted perp drove to Fulton County, and now it's considered a hate crime. Or now the DA is going after it as a hate crime. So we'll talk about that. I read something interesting about Suni Lee. Suni Lee, who I still find is the most interesting and watchable Asian American right now. I mean, she was a world beater in Tokyo for the Olympics. And we just had the Winter Olympics, and I know I talked a lot about Eileen Gu, but totally different sort of things. I mean, Eileen Gu, she was the born in America, San Franciscan freestyle skiing for China, which really was, I think it really was a story for Asian Americans there, because there's that blur. Where are we? Are we Asian? Are we Americans? Oh, just give me the money, is what she said. So I know they're still looking at her in China because she's a big model there. And I guess we're going to see more of her at some point here in the U.S., but she is huge, $31 million huge in China, in the China markets. But now we're in this different kind of environment. I wonder what's going to happen to Eileen Gu in commerce, especially if China decides they're backing Russia. The reports are that they're open to helping each other. And I would have thought that China was a little more savvy, but that's what reports are. The intelligence reports, of course, they're trying to make us think a certain way about what China may do. But China is the only power that might have some kind of sway or influence against Russia. Just think if China brokers the peace, gets us away from where we are now, World War II.5, and brokers the peace and gets us into not a semblance of normal. This is sort of like the coronavirus years, although accelerated into 19 days. We're not going to go back to normal. It's not going to be normal, but we're going to go back to something else where there might be peace. And maybe, is that peace brokered by China? And whatever China does is going to affect Asian Americans. And that's just the way it's going to be. Because, thank you, Eileen Gu, for blurring the lines. All right. So I got off on tangent talking about Eileen Gu. I really wanted to talk about Suni Lee because I saw something today that made me think that, she's in the showbiz, right? Suni Lee. She danced with the stars, which is kind of like it's showbiz. Millions of people watch that show. But it's not like being a big movie star or something like that. But she's famous and she captured all our imagination. She won our hearts when she won the Olympics in the prestige event, right, for gymnastics. She won the all around. And I saw something today that I think I think you'll be able to relate to it because she's not Superwoman, it turns out. I'll talk about that today. Talk about the Atlanta countdown. This is Atlanta Eve. Zelensky is the spokesperson for his country, Ukraine. And he's giving a speech to Congress, the U.S. Congress, on Wednesday. Today, he spoke to the Canadian Parliament. And we got a preview. I'll talk about a preview about what he said. Putin has issued sanctions. If you got sanctions, I got sanctions. And so now he's sanctioning. He can't sanction Russian oil because that's his oil. But he's putting a sanction on Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, and others. You can't come to our country, which I suppose symbolic. What's more interesting, I don't see in any of the reports that Donald Trump has been sanctioned by Russia. Oh, you wouldn't sanction your buddy. I got an interesting thing about inflation, how everyone's worried about inflation now, but the Wall Street Journal is reporting that non-white voters are more likely than white voters to say the highest inflation in 4 decades is triggering major financial strain in their lives. And the conclusion is that means that, Republicans have an opening here with a growing segment of the electorate that traditionally favors Democrats, according to this Wall Street Journal poll. I don't know if that's what that means. I mean, we're going to feel the pinch, but is it enough of a pinch to turn people who are traditionally Democrats into Republicans? I don't know, because which party is the most racist toward people of color? Which party has more policies that are more hurtful toward people of color? See, I think the Republicans are just trying to use these kind of polls to lift up their spirits that the former twice impeached president is really considered an enabler of Putin, who is now public enemy number one. And the twice impeached president just, recently, within the last 19 days, called public enemy number one, genius. Just like the twice impeached president called himself a stable genius. So we're going to talk, we'll do a news scan. So a lot that we talk about here on Emil Guillermo's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. We are here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Live. And, when we're here just before, that's what I call the little lagniappe section, the little something extra. So you got the something extra. You got the deets on the ALDEF. The ALDEF, it's not really a meeting, but it's really more the ALDEF gathering. It's Wednesday, March 16th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And you'd only go there if you're in New York, right? It's at Kim Law Square in Chinatown. Bring signs, bring posters, come stand in community, bring candles. Remember the 6 women. And catch my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, where I talk about those 6 women and I mention their names because I think it's important to mention their names. It's important to talk about them. Suncha Kim, Sun Chung Park, Hyun Jung Grant, Young A Yu. It's important to talk about. Now I don't have the list with the other 2 names. Now I feel bad. Oh, like Xiao Jie Tan, Dao Yo Feng. Those 2 were in Cherokee County at Young's. But it's important to remember their names on this day, or as we lead up to the anniversary, because they were us. That's what hate crimes are about. And back in July, if you've been following the case, they took the whole event of March 16th and they took the first four killings at Young's in Cherokee County, and they focused on those 2 first, and they split the others for Fulton County. But here's what happened in Cherokee County. I don't know if you paid attention or noticed back in July. The Cherokee County DA said that they weren't hate crimes. And I said back then, and I still believe it, when they say that these violent acts that happened in Atlanta aren't hate crimes, the message to all of us Asian Americans is clear. We don't count. Justice doesn't apply to us. We're not seen again. Not all of us. Not when they look into the deaths of Xiao Jie Tan or Dao Yung Feng. They don't look at all of us. They look at just those 2 women. That's it. Just those 2. They don't see it as a crime against all of us. And that's why I like to say their names a lot, even though I hope I don't mispronounce them terribly. But Xiao Jie Tan, Dao Yung Feng, and Feng, rather, in Cherokee County, Suncha Kim, Sun Chung Park, Hyun Jung Grant, and Young A Yu in Fulton County. Cherokee County District Attorney Shannon Wallace, I put in my log of shameless, unconscious transgressions against Asian Americans. So here's Wallace last July. White woman, served 8 years as Cherokee County DA. Didn't see Asian American hate. Not in her part of this case. So instead of going after the killer, Robert Aaron Long, 21, Wallace gave him an out. A more than generous plea deal. Long just had to admit that it wasn't about race or hate. It was all about sex. And that's what Wallace, or what Long had told the sheriff's department and his captors. And when he was interviewed, he said, it's about sex. But Wallace took it and just made it easy on all of us. It was the straightest line to a conviction or plea deal. And so the unchallenged narrative in July was that Long, 21-year-old and celibate male who loved porn. He loved porn and loved sex, loved visiting Asian massage parlors. His Christian faith be damned. And so here was Long when he visited that Korean spa. The 2 women who worked there were just shot because of sex. Race had nothing to do with it. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. And then, so he shoots them. And then after that, he goes off to this other part of Atlanta, Fulton County. And here's the thing about it. Was it about sex or was it about race? If it was about sex, why didn't he shoot anyone who made him feel horny or gave him a sense of temptation? He had to drive like 40 miles or so from where he was in Cherokee County to Fulton County. You see, but he sought out a massage parlor, specifically an Asian American massage parlor, Korean owned. So that was the unchallenged narrative of Robert Aaron Long, that he did it because of sex, not because of race. And Wallace, the Cherokee County DA, gave him what he wanted. 4 consecutive life sentences in prison, plus 35 years. It's what you might call quasi-internal damnation to appease his Christian guilt. 4 consecutive life sentences plus 35 years. But I would say Long got off light. I mean, he pretty much got all he wanted. He could stay in prison and pray his entire life. A penitent. He avoided the death penalty. He avoided any hate or bias crime charges. Wallace got a quote from her. She said, this was not any kind of hate crime. Oh, no? He was going after the people who he felt enabled him. He didn't go after the girl next door. He went after Asian Americans. Wallace was saying at the time, last July, that she talked to some of the Asian friends of Long, and none said he showed race bias against Asians. But then again, when you talk to the guy's friends, what are they going to say? I just think that DA Wallace failed us. She reportedly said if the case had gone to trial, she would have sought hate crime enhancements based on gender, not race. And she said she would have sought the death penalty, but she didn't, not for the Asian Americans. So once again, we didn't rise to her level of justice. She just didn't see us. So now the case goes to Fulton County and Fannie T. Willis, who is the prosecutor there, and she said she will go for hate crime enhancement. She will go for the death penalty against Long. And the first court appearance, last time I checked, was in April. So now we're a month away, and then we'll see if Asian Americans will get justice for the other 4 Asian American women: Suncha Kim, Soon Chung Park, Hyung Jung Grant, Young A.U. A 19-count indictment is against Robert Aaron Long. Murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, domestic terrorism. And I don't think Willis is piling on. She's just showing an awareness of Asian Americans as people of color, and going after the death penalty and the hate crime show that we are seen in the eyes of the law. I know a lot of Korean Americans, very religious, and I suppose it would be Christian to forgive, but the families, when they feel it necessary, they can forgive. That's another matter. When the DA speaks and the DA prosecutes, well, that's society going after Robert Aaron Long. Notice, I don't mind saying his name. Robin Aaron Long. A lot of people might say, oh, we remember the names of those killed, those murdered on March 16th. Yes. But until justice is done, we don't forget the killer. Well, the killer of 4 of the 8 that day. Now he's up for the other 4 starting next month. We'll see. Robert Aaron Long. You kill 6 of us, you'd think it'd be easy for justice to see. It's a crime against Asian Americans. But the first part of this shows that justice is just more elusive than ever. Once again, that the vigil, the gathering, the community gathering in New York City. If you're listening to me and you happen to be near New York, it's Wednesday, March 16th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Kim-Law Square in Chinatown in Manhattan. To stop Asian hate now, remembering Atlanta. So I want to talk about Suni Lee here now, because I still think she is the most watchable Asian American. After the Olympics, yeah, world stage. She won the gold just last summer. I know it seems weird. We had the Summer Olympics and we had the Winter Olympics, kind of all like scrunched together. But she told ESPN something on Monday that I think is important for all Asian Americans. I mean, I think the tendency is to look at Suni Lee and to put her up on a pedestal, right? That's not a gymnastics apparatus, but it might as well could be. I mean, we hold her up, Olympic champ. And this interview with ESPN yesterday, just published today, reveals something that you may not think. It says here in this article by Alex Scarborough, Suni Lee revealed that she has experienced what she described as imposter syndrome, an anxiety that nearly caused her to skip competitions. Now, I don't know if you've been following Suni Lee since the summer, but you can go to the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, and see what I've written about. I mean, Suni Lee was captivating in the Summer Olympics, especially with Simone Biles going through what she was going through. She said that her mindfulness was off, and it is kind of a mind game when you're competing at that level. But here's Suni Lee, who wins the gold in the all-around in a fantastic performance, and I detail it in my coverage on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. And now we hear that since then she's experienced imposter syndrome and anxiety. She's just 19, and Suni Lee, she's competing as a freshman at Auburn this season, and here's what anxiety has done. She scored perfect 10s on 2 routines. But she told ESPN that she's battled a lack of confidence since returning from Tokyo. Imagine that, a lack of confidence. Quote, I feel like after the Olympics, there's just been so much doubt in like, oh, she shouldn't have won the Olympics, blah, 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 blah. And it really hits my soul, she said. Can you imagine that? I guess because Simone Biles had her issues with mindfulness, then Suni Lee just had to step up and perform. She had her opportunity. What if she hadn't won? You would say, oh, She wasn't up to it. She was just 19.